all recorded now. So let's start. What is your name?
Steve, with a V, Trefanides.
Okay, where were you born?
New Bedford, Mass, 1926. That makes me almost 90.
Do you have any siblings?
You mean any brothers or sisters?
Yeah.
Yes, I have a brother who's alive, and he's 5 years younger than me. And he lives down here near the Cape.
Mm-hmm. What were your parents like?
Well, my mother was very small, she was about 5'2", but she made up for it with a generous volume in her speech. Yeah. She was 19 or 18 when she met my father, and it was a kind of, as I got the story, it was a story about a marriage of two people who never met. And I do have a photograph of them on their honeymoon sitting at a cafe in Europe somewhere. So they did meet, and they came here, and he was a restaurant, owned a restaurant, small restaurant in New Bedford, called, what was it called? I have to come back to that later.
That's all right.
Very ordinary name. Anyway, my mother did learn English in a broken English, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My father died when I was 7 years old, so I hardly knew him at all, because being a restaurant man, you spent most of your life in a restaurant, getting ready early in the morning, staying late at night. So I didn't know him at all, and he died in New Bedford in the hospital there. There's pictures of me talking to him. I'm standing in the street, and he's up in a window. And otherwise, I couldn't tell you anything, even what he looked like.
Where was your mother from?
She's from Greece. She's from Thessaloniki, and it's northern Greece. I later visited my grandmother there, and my aunt there, and an uncle, and I think they've all passed. So I went there alone. My brother was supposed to meet me, but he got held up somewhere, so I went on alone. It was a wonderful trip. Couldn't speak a word of Greek. They couldn't speak a word of anything, but we understood very easily. That was a great experience. So, but that was after I had been a soldier. You know, I was. So getting back to being a private in the Army Air Corps, I got my training in Camp Gordon, Georgia, and then traveled across the country to California, where I got on a troop ship with a lot of troops. They were called Liberty ships, and they're famous because they had round bottoms. So anybody like me who gets seasick very easily was seasick all the time. The boat, you know, round bottom. and we landed in after an overnight stop at Hawaii. We went on into the Pacific Ocean to about where the Philippine Islands were. And I think we stopped in the Philippine Islands briefly before we went on to Leyte, Leyte, a famous battle, many battles of Leyte. When I arrived there, by the way, on the way over, we got the great news that Germany had surrendered. And everybody on the ship, of course, were very excited because we all felt we were doomed to die anyway. And now we knew we weren't going to, that wasn't going to happen. So a lot of them threw their gas mask overboard. And I was one of them. But so we got to Leyte. I stayed there a short time and then moved on to Cebu Island, which is, I don't know how close it is, but it's pretty close to the Philippines. And I spent, I don't know how long, I think pretty close to a year there. The island was, is now deserted practically of all the United States soldiers, and we were the recruit to take over from them. And now there was nothing to take over because the war was over. But there were certain Japanese soldiers there which we enlisted to work for us in various ways, to say what. I know nothing about being in the Air Force, even though I was in it. And being an artist, they didn't know what to do with me. I did a lot of drawings of my friends and also my officers. And the island was had these wonderful soldiers that left, that we took over to, who were very clever with their hands. They built washing machines out of parts of vehicles that worked very well. And they left a PX that I was assigned to. And they went off and we came in. We just knew them very slightly. They were very reserved, actually. Anyway. Go ahead.
What did you do before the war? What was for a living?
I was an art student in art school in Boston. And I got special dispensations not to go, and finally I ran out of those and I was drafted.
How old were you when you were drafted?
I was about 18 or 19. I vested 2 years, I would say, 44 to 46. And most of the time that I was away was on these islands, these couple of islands that I was involved in.
What did you expect the military to be like?
Well, all I knew about it was what I saw in movies. And it was somewhat like it, but it was mostly like going to camp. Except it was deadly. I mean, we were taught to kill. We didn't do it very enthusiastically because we were not going to go to war. We were just there. And that was a strange way to be, because it's more like going to camp or going on a holiday.
Okay. Were you issued any weapons while you were there?
Well, you had to shoot machine guns. You had to crawl under live machine gun bullets, you know, on your elbows, underneath barbed wire. Everybody kept, you could hear them, keep your butt down. If your butt is up too high, you're going to get shot. So we did do some serious training, but not too serious, because we knew that we were going to fight.
Was it hard being so far from home?
Strangely enough, I did not get homesick, and I've never gotten homesick anywhere where I had to stay away from home. I got a little bit antsy. I mean, that may be called homesickness, I don't know. But I know that we and all the other guys couldn't wait for the mail to be delivered to us. I mean, it's a big event.
Although you did not see direct combat, did you ever encounter any Japanese soldiers as prisoners of war?
Yes, as prisoners of war. I was assigned to the defunct PX. There's nobody to run the PX, and I was elected. And of course, I knew nothing about it. And I guess I was the worst director of that PX they ever had, because they had a fund that they had built up, and I used it all up in about a week, doing what I don't know. But they had issued me a revolver, and I carried that around because I had prisoners that I were responsible for, and I got along pretty well with them. They couldn't speak any English, I couldn't speak any Japanese. I think there were about 3 or 4 of them that worked in PX with me. And the PX is, somebody, is Phyllis gone?
Oh, I'll get that. It's all right.
She got it?
Yeah, I can cut that from the recording.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, I was telling
You were
you.
talking about how you worked at the PX.
Yeah, I worked at the PX.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned by I got a catalog, official Army catalog of purchasing anything that I'd want for the PX or for anything. I mean, you name it. And there was a section in there on supplying art supplies to the creation of an art school of some sort. So I ordered a huge amount of supplies, art supplies, drawing boards, brushes, paints, sketch pads. I made ordered enough that I could start a class, which I did. I started an art class, an evening class of still life painting and figure drawing. This tremendous box was delivered to, as big as this room, which had all the material that I had ordered. And that went along pretty well, and it did get me into a little bit of a problem. I was asked to organize some art exhibits of the students' work. So I said, okay, I'll try it. And there was another field called Harmon Field nearby. And I had learned how to drive by then.
Mm-hmm.
So I requisitioned a weapons carrier,
Mm-hmm.
but I forgot to sign it in or out. And I was driving it illegally. I didn't know it, but I was. So after I had an assistant. And he was sitting next to me in the car. But something gone?
Right. Yeah, of course. The cameras just ran out of power.
Oh.
But
Can you get
yeah,
some
I have
more?
another battery.
Okay.